really excited to be here. Welcome, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here with you. This is awesome.
So Jesse and I spent some time together this morning, and I learned all of the Chili's secrets. And I am very excited for you guys to learn what's been the special sauce that's given them some insane growth. So to kick us off, just to start with a fun one, what is your favorite Chili's item, and are there any sleeper items on the menu?
I'll be honest. If we're being real, it's 2 frozen margaritas and no lunch is the order.
That sounds awful.
But the Chili's burgers are incredible. Stand by that. And then the sneakers that we just redid our baby back ribs. So they legit hold up. I know we're in a barbecue town, but they're amazing. So if you go to 45th and Lamar is probably the most famous Chili's in America. So it's real close to here.
Love it. I am a mozzarella stick gal, but I will try those maybe. Okay, so I don't know if everyone in the room knows, but Chili's has had a phenomenal last few years. I think Marcus alluded to it a little bit, but it's really been an outstanding time for Chili's. It's really been an evolution, I think, and that's not dramaticism. For you guys to reconnect with legacy consumers as well as attract new fans. Tell us a little bit about where you are in that journey right now.
Yeah, we're fortunate. The last 3 years have been amazing. I think, numbers-wise, 19 consecutive quarters of same-store sales growth, which is crazy. But the last 6 have been double digits. I mean, we're talking 20s, 30s in a category that's down. And so, 3 years ago, our CEO, Kevin Hochman, our CMO, George Felix, came, and I came right after. The three of us had worked together previously. And ever since then, it's been a completely shift in strategy, and you're feeling that. And so we're riding that wave right now. I got to tell you, it still feels like early innings for us. Like we have no sign of slowdown, and we're having a lot of fun.
I will say we went to lunch before this, and the waitress saw this little Chili's and stopped Jesse, had no idea who he was, told him how impactful this was on her relationship with her 4-year-old daughter. And when he slipped her a couple of gift cards as we were leaving, it made her year. It was so sweet. So seeing the real fandom in the wild was honestly heartwarming. So you teased a little bit about how it's evolved, how we're showing up differently for guests today. Can you share more about how the partnership between teams outside of marketing and marketing helps drive that brand revival?
Yeah, a lot of times in restaurants, if there's any restaurant people in the building, it tends to be this big conflict between marketing and operations. And so marketing's pushing something else, and operations has a different voice, and they don't talk to each other. And so the first thing we all did when we came together was well, that's not going to be how we work. And so the three of us, Kevin, George, and I, have really turned into operations people. We care about how the food is inside the restaurant. And the first year, we really just doubled down on what's that restaurant experience. For a marketer, we know that as soon as the consumer has that first moment of truth, when they actually come into a Chili's, that's your one shot. And if the experience isn't great, they're not coming back, and the flywheel's done. And so for us, really investing, holding back a lot of the marketing firepower until we felt that was fixed was really critical. And now that's why we see a lot of repeat guests, because honestly, the promise that we're selling on TV or in our culture driving work was delivering in the restaurant.
Love it. Walk us through a little bit more of what that journey actually looked like for your team, how you discovered the formula that really works, just some more detail.
Yeah, I mean, we sat down and just started being honest about what the Chili's brand was. So it's I think when we started, there was 9 salads at Chili's. I don't know if you're going to Chili's to have a knockout salad.
No.
But I don't think you probably are. It's probably more of a veto vote. And so we went through, and it's that was the story across the entire menu. Over the first year, I think we eliminated 25% of the menu, yet traffic was still increasing, which never happens, right? The way that a lot of restaurant brands act is they just keep adding the next trending dish, and they never remove anything. What happens for the restaurant team that works there is it gets really hard. They have a bunch of one-off SKUs that they're using to only make one sandwich that they're only selling 3 of. You start to see that compound, and it's really hard and not fun to work at Chili's. And so we went in and fixed it. I think our CEO was in restaurants 57 out of the first 60 days, sitting with prep cooks and just asking what would you do if you were the CEO? And one of them was well, I'd stop counting these shrimp into a bag. I'll tell you that. And so he's all right, let's stop doing that. And the way she explained it was hey, I got to put 5 in here. Most of the time it's going to be 5. Sometimes it'll be 6, probably be okay. So it's those kind of just common sense decisions that started rolling out and listening to that field that really kind of changed, the relationship we have, and certainly, the experience we have at Chili's now.
Yeah, I think it's really unique because the marketing teams usually are not involved in that way. And so I really think that's the differentiator. And maybe this is an embarrassing thing for me, but when Jesse and I were chatting, I found out that everything I ate as a child at Chili's was eliminated from the menu. and he had never heard of any of them, like the broccoli cheddar soup or the ahi tuna steak sandwich, which probably none of you have ever had, as the room is silent.
We would have removed those immediately if they were still there.
Everything was gone. But anyways, I'm glad it was eliminated. Switching gears a little bit, I'd love to talk more about your approach to building Chili's marketing strategy. How did you position the brand as a leader, and which channels have been most important in helping you amplify that message?
Yeah, so as we were all kind of starting, we would talk to people and say, I'm leaving this job I had and I'm going to Chili's. And a lot of times this is how the interaction goes. Like, really, Chili's? I love Chili's. And I'd be like, oh, you love Chili's? When's the last time you've been to Chili's? 10 years. So it's like, that's every single person. 3 years ago, that was the truth. Casual dining was dead. All the articles were there are going to be no surviving casual dining chains. And certainly, people have fond memories of Chili's, but they don't actually go. And so we went to a Chili's as a team, and it wasn't the Chili's I remembered. I went with my mom in Fargo, North Dakota, and that was like some of our happiest family memories was going to the Chili's in Fargo. There was like a real experience there for us. It wasn't what I felt when we first started in 2023. And so we started asking the question, how do we make Chili's more Chili's? That energy, that vibe that would have. And so we're fortunate. One of our founders, Doug Brooks, still has an office in our building. And so my first month, I spent about 2 weeks with Doug and asked him to bring literal boxes of old memorabilia and artifacts from his personal garage. So he would load up his truck, bring 5 boxes of stuff that he had saved, and we just sit and go through it and just sit and listen to the stories. And what you find out is that Chili's isn't some chain. It was started in 1975 at the Terralingua Chili Cook-Off in West Texas with a bunch of, you see these photos, it's like a bunch of, they call themselves the hamburger hippies. They're wearing, big aviators, big beards, trucker hats. Like, these are not serious restaurant dudes. They are literally selling chili out of the back of their truck. And then they said, let's start a restaurant, because at the time, you could either go to you could go to like a QSR, like a McDonald's, or you could go to really fancy dining. There was no middle. And so this was the start of casual dining. They wanted to open a place where you could have hamburgers, fries, margaritas, and cold beers served by your friends that are wearing tennis shoes, and make it a really casual place. And that's the start. And that's what started the whole industry. So when you sit there and you look at what Chili's is, and then you look at these photos of these hamburger hippies, you're like, oh, I got it. We're taking ourselves way too seriously. We're not being authentic to who we are, and we need to change our voice. And that time, Marcus was just up here. That is the fundamental of when you find your voice, you find your look and feel, that the brand starts to unlock. I think at the time, just to get into nerdy design things, we had like 14 brand colors, and all of them were named after like food items. It's so phony. So we went, Chili's is famous for these tile tables. So we went and found the original tile tables, and we said, boom, those are our 5 brand colors. There's the red and our green that are in our logo, and then we have we call it Thursday Night Glow, and then there's a Thursday Night Blue, and then there's a ranch color. So there's only 5 colors, but they're born out of the tile tables that were in the original Chili's. So it's that kind of thing of how do you harness what's authentic, and then how do you make it modern and cool?
That literally takes me back. I actually forgot about those tiles until this moment. I feel like everyone else in the room also feels that way of like, oh yeah, I was coloring on those tables as a child. And they definitely were differentiated. In such a competitive space like casual dining, Chili's is one of the only survivors of the pandemic. What do you think your team did differently that really set Chili's apart? And was there an aha moment that you can reflect back on that helped support your strategy?
Yeah, it was, for us, I think we've had a couple, 2 really breakthrough moments, and both of them are born out of social listening, by the way. And we've got an amazing social media team, and they flag things that they think might be really important. And one of them, this is, spring of 2024, there are a lot of people posting their fast food receipts and recording outrage videos of just I can't believe it. I just went to XYZ brand. I won't say that. It's $24, and it's just a burger value meal. And so we started seeing it over and over. This outrage was real. And what we found strategically is fast food had broken the promise. It was always I'm good with low quality as long as it's affordable. Now it's low quality and it's the same price as everything else. And so for us, we took our 3 for Me, which is what we push for our value message. That's been on for 5 years. That's not a new thing that we went and invented and anything like that. We just called out, hey, you can get this. It's cheaper and twice the size and bigger. And we had an attitude with our voice that we learned from our hamburger hippies, and we just went at it. And that's been a successful campaign now for over 2 years, and a really big catalyst for our growth.
I don't know if everyone knows, but you can get $12 Casamigos margaritas at Chili's. That doesn't happen in Los Angeles for sure. I know. And I'm sure these bartenders don't have that here either. So, in case you didn't know, that is also one of the big strategies of getting these millennial moms there, at least me. I know that Chili's has had several viral moments recently, from the Triple Dipper to the Margarita of the Month. You talked a little bit about 2024 where the receipts were coming through, but there have been some really great moments for Chili's specifically. How do you think about these moments as cultural moments, and how do you build upon them to become brand drivers?
Yeah, the thing again, we're just going back to like who Chili's was. Like in the 90s and early 2000s, Chili's was a big part of pop culture. Fat Bastards singing "I Want My Baby Back." The Office has a couple episodes that are incredible. NSYNC is singing the "Baby Back Ribs" jingle. So it's like it's just naturally part of it. And so the way that when we came in and for the turnaround, Chili's had stopped advertising for 4 years. What a amazing, as a marketer, what an amazing experience to say, oh my gosh, I have a white room of no media noise. I'm going to turn off like heavy discounting and email, and now I can literally build a plan from scratch. It doesn't happen for most brands. Like we'll acknowledge that. But what we were able to do is build a smart kind of media tentpole TV strategy, and then we supplement that with things we call them culture pops. I think everyone has a different term for it, but these brand activations. And that's where we have a few different kind of channels we try to push. One of them, like Chili's, is a nostalgic brand. I think nostalgia is very dangerous. Like you don't want to be too nostalgic, or you're going to be forgotten soon. But we did a Scranton, in the Office, they go to Chili's for the Dundies. But we started poking around, and that's not real. There's not a Chili's in Scranton. And so we built one, and not a pop-up. We built a permanent Scranton. It opened up the #1 all-time week of a Chili's in history was in Scranton. And the way we did it, we actually turned it into a unlicensed shrine to the Office. A lot of Easter eggs around the building. And then we made it a replica of 2005, to the point that we brought back the Awesome Blossom. And it's the only Chili's in America that serves the Awesome Blossom, because we wanted to be authentic to that. The campaign was so fun. We actually went and got all the small bit players of the Office and made a homemade local commercial with them. When we dropped it on Reddit, everyone went nuts, and all of a sudden people are trying to identify what episode, who all these different people are. It was just such an amazing experience. The cast was there. They never had actually been to Scranton, most of them. They'd only ever shot in LA, which like blew my mind. I said,
seems like a crime.
Oh, I was like, does it feel good to be back or what? And they're like, oh man, we've never been here. So they went bowling with us, and it was very cool. So like nostalgic is a really cool place. Disruption is another area we love to play. When we launched one of our recent burgers, we to lean into the inflation stories and how fast food is so unaffordable. We actually opened a loan store right next to a McDonald's in New York, and we called it fast food financing. So the whole outside looked like a loan shark store, all the neon signs, but you walked in and you had to fill out an application, and we actually gave you a gift card to use at the McDonald's next door. And then as they came, just to make the point that you can't afford fast food anymore, and then you got to go into the only Chili's in Manhattan, which was like a speakeasy Chili's in the back, and try our new burgers. So really like fun, disruptive way to be showing up.
How are you judging the success of these? I know it sounds like really fun and playful and cool and splashy. Is it PR? Is it an actual rise in sales?
Yeah, the technical, like I don't love a ton of data, I'm going to be honest. But the one thing that we found to be that really coincides and is correlated with our sales is it's a metric in YouGov called positive buzz. And it's a combination of PR, social media, influencer, and then just word of mouth. Like if you had a friend that went to Chili's and had a great experience and they told you, it would count into that. When we spike positive buzz with Gen Z, it's the highest correlating number against our sales. And so to win with a younger consumer, to have this hype halo that lives above your brand is an entire stream of work for us that we're constantly pumping out new ideas.
I'll plug my ears because the Trade Desk loves data, and I would say that's one of our biggest pillars. So I'm going to ignore you there. That's fine. The hype halo, I've never actually heard of that phrase. Did you make that up?
Right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you guys can take that. You didn't, when you're talking about all these good stories, you didn't actually talk about what happened on TikTok naturally with the Triple Dipper. I would love for you to talk a little bit about that experience, what you guys did to capitalize on it, how Gen Z is actually embracing Chili's in a way that maybe wasn't expected.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. And again, Marcus talked about a little bit of like, we're actually just listening to consumers. When you talk to different restaurant companies, they're always, sometimes I'll hear the comment of like, yeah, we haven't hit our stunt food yet that's going to really drive in traffic. I'm like, that's not how it works. You're not going to go hit all of a sudden hit on this new food item. The triple dipper had been on the menu for a decade, and the mozzarella sticks included, no change. But what changed was in social media, our social media manager came up to me and was like, hey, you got to see this video. This guy is literally just pulling the cheese stick as far as he can, and it's got a lot of engagement. And so we said, all right, let's just go put gas on that. So we had a bunch of influencers go do it, and that's it. I mean, that's the end of it. And all of a sudden, people wanted to create it more and more. And so now we've built out this huge pipeline around the triple dipper. We've continued to drive cheese pulls. But the start of it, it wasn't some big strategy. It was listening and seeing how were people actually interacting with your food. So it's that's the part that's so important. I think that Gen Z, to answer the other part of that question, is like, I think there was just a time where they never heard of Chili's. I think they felt like their parents were holding out that Chili's was sitting here this whole time, because there was a whole decade where Chili's kind of fell off the map. Then there was COVID. That's 15 years, and now all of a sudden Gen Z are 20, 25, and they're finding it for the first time. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I dug deep into the brand about a year ago with my team before you guys had launched with the trade desk, I was pretty floored to see the 19 quarters in a row, whatever it was, the extreme growth. Because I think, especially I live in LA, we're seeing QSR and casual dining close left and right. It seems to be crumbling, and so many of my childhood memories are from Chili's. And as I take my family of 5 soon there, it feels like a nostalgic comfort place where we can also find these items that we recognize. It's not all the new age. So yeah, I feel you on a lot of those things. I think one of the channels you're tapping into a lot is creators. We talked a little bit about this earlier, you and I. How are you thinking about influencers and creators? Where's the sweet spot? How are you scaling this? I think a lot of the people in the room are probably trying to test this out and invest more in this. How do you think about it?
Yeah, I would say a little over a year ago, we had no creator plan. We didn't do anything. And so we've been testing and learning. I think that's the best way. We look for audiences that make a lot of sense and creators that we feel are authentic to our brand. And so our model is we find paid creators that we believe in and want to invest money in. And then we also use other channels, these creator marketplaces, which really allow you to have a ton of scale. So you've got big impact. That's usually our model on almost every single channel, is that we'll go for attention and impact. And then we'll find the efficiency to really help you get a ton of reach. And so the way the TikTok algorithm works is once you've watched one cheese pull video, I'm sorry, you're about to see 50 more. So it's having enough volume of content so that it constantly feels like, wow, everyone in America is doing this cheese pull. I got to go do it too. So I think the experiential part of Chili's is the other thing. There's something to do when you go there. You're not sitting there just taking a photo of your plate. You're like, now watch me do it again. So it's I think we think about that all the time, is what are the theatrics and the experience of being inside of a Chili's too.
Would you say Chili's and Gab is what's coming next?
Yeah, Chili's and Yap, yeah.
Oh, Chili's and Yap. Sorry, that sounded like in the app. Chili's and Yap. Okay. So for decades, we've talked about it. Chili's has remained a household name. When you look ahead, what feels like the biggest opportunity for the brand in the dining space?
Like I said, I think we're early innings. I think everyone, you talk to the investor community and you start thinking about all this stuff. Everyone thinks it's well, this has got to be done eventually, right? We've only talked about burgers. Have you seen a Chili's menu? It's insane. So there's fried chicken sandwiches, there's chicken tenders, there's fajitas, there's baby back ribs, on and on and on. We're literally just scratching the surface. So to me, I just feel like we're going to be really, the hard part right now is just to be really disciplined. And I think, we went from a brand that no one cared about 3 years ago to one that's had success and now have more opportunities. And I think making sure you're staying authentic to yourself, I think that's a trap. Yeah. And then the other one is slowly going through your food and making sure you're putting out something that we're really proud of. And you can rush some of those things. We try to be really disciplined about it.
Where do you see the most room for Chili's to grow or evolve in a way that really connects with its guests?
I still think it's that experiential, moment. Coming out of COVID, I think that the third place is still a world that hasn't been fully explored. You kind of see Starbucks doing it a little bit with what they're doing in a lot of their advertising. But I do think people are finally, I know it seems like COVID was a long time ago. I still think that's the new thing, is I want to go get out of my house, not go to your house. And Chili's is a spot where there's value there, there's margaritas there, and it's a good vibe. That's what we really kind of lean into. So I think it's how do we own more occasions? How do we own girls' night? How do we own date night? How do we own friends' night? I think that's probably what we'll continue to push.
If we were having this conversation again in 3 years from now, what would you hope people would say that Chili's got right?
I think it's the the run of the cultural work that we're making. I mean, like we laugh. I don't think there's a lot of brands like we went from like Boys to Men to like this insane NASCAR thing to a Tecovas boot partnership to on and like a Bravo. We did Vanderpump Rules. Like this weird eclectic part of Chili's and how we mix like nostalgia with Yas Queen, trends, whatever. It's like that's what's cool about it is that Chili's can really be for everyone, and we're not stuck in these tight lanes and investing a lot. We just take a ton of swings because, to be honest, you can't predict culture. You can just put yourself in the best possible situation and see what happens.
Well, thank you so much, Jesse. It's really refreshing to hear everything that's happened at Chili's and how you're approaching it. And hopefully everyone will go try a cheese poll and upload it to TikTok so Jesse can track the buzz. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosie.
Yeah.